'Cause the future is now, not backing down. 'Cause the future is now.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues from the geothermal industry, welcome to the virtual seminar number 8, Closing Chapter 1. I stand before you today, your host, Kristina Hagström-Ilevska, filled with genuine thrill and gratitude as we bid farewell to this chapter of our virtual seminar series. Over the past 5 years, we've delved deep into the heart of geothermal energy, unlocking its secret and witnessing transformative power and everything it holds for a cleaner, more sustainable future through amazing guests. This journey have weathered pandemic, providing us with a platform to unite around a common cause. Now, you might be wondering, why stop something that works? Well, my friends, the only constant in life is change, and embracing change is essential for progress. The evolving needs our community to drive and to shift up gears and serve everybody with precisely what they actually need. And what you need might be just around the corner. Well, change is not an end, but a doorway to innovation and growth. Today is not just about closing a chapter. It's celebrating the milestones, the breakthroughs and the innovations that have shaped geothermal landscape the last 5 years. Fear not, dear participants, for today's farewell is not an end, but a transition. As we bid adieu to the virtual seminar series, we eagerly anticipate what lies ahead on the horizon. Exciting news awaits, so mark your calendars and stay tuned for updates. The end of Chapter 1 marks the beginning of another, and we're embarking on this new journey together. The era of virtual seminars may be closing its doors, but rest assured, the door to discovery, innovation and progress swings open another. Together, we'll continue to explore the vast potential, navigate the opportunities and face the challenges that lie ahead on our collective journey towards a greener and more sustainable future. Join us as we kick off this celebration by reflecting on the transformative journey of geothermal energy over the past 5 years. Together we will unveil existing prospects for the next chapter, celebrating achievements, anticipating future innovations, and marking the beginning of a new era in sustainable energy. So join me and the entire community as we unveil the curtain for our last unforgettable seminar. It isn't just the end, it's a new beginning. And speaking of beginnings, without further ado, let's delve into the agenda that marks the commencement of an exciting celebration. First off is what lies ahead. We will embark on an insightful discourse with Magnus Brandberg as he explores the systemic changes essential for creating a better world. We will gain valuable perspectives and societal transformation and be inspired how to contribute to a brighter future. Next, after that, we will have Pernilla Wihlborg that will lead an engaging discussion with directors from prominent organizations such as IGA, GR, Project Innerspace, and EJEC. Gain valuable insights into the past, present, and the future of geothermal energy as these esteemed leaders share their perspectives on the industry trajectory. After that, it's time to turn challenges into opportunities. We have invited a perspective from the outside. We have invited Matthias Goldman to speak about reshaping collective mindset for a more sustainable future. After that, we will continue to talk about fostering collaboration. We will have Alexander Richter talking about the significance of news channels and in the geothermal world, and also gives valuable insights to the background of Think Geoenergy. Finally, join us for a heartfelt conclusion as Alexander Helling, our CEO of Baseload Capital, reflects on the remarkable achievements of the past 5 years in geothermal and renewable energy. In this closing chapter, we'll celebrate milestones, acknowledge progress, and set a tone for the exciting journey that lies ahead. And of course, in between, rest assured, there will of course be a couple of segments that will be bringing you a big smile. Get ready for an evening or day or wherever you are filled with celebration, insights, and inspirations. Thank you for being a part of this incredible journey, and let's make this final chapter unforgettable. It is time to transition to our first speaker. He's not only the first speaker here today, he was actually the first speaker of the virtual seminar number 1. For us at Baseload Capital, he's an important part of the leadership. He is that horizon that you look on, that you make sure that you have with you, the one that sees you, that inspires you, and that encourages you to do that little bit of extra. He's the person that gives us the strength to continue on, even on a gloomy day. Today, he's not going to be gloomy. He's going to give you hope. He's going to give you much more than that. And I am so happy to have him on stage. He is the co-founder of Baseload Capital and the chairman of the board. Magnus Brandberg, please join me up on stage.
Hey.
Wait, take over. Go ahead.
Good to see you, Christina. Thank you so much. Thank you. Today, maybe more than ever, we need to be possibilistic about the future. And as you might know, it was Hans Rosling, the author of the eye-opening book Factfulness, who used the word possibilist to describe someone that sees progress and is filled with conviction and hope that further progress is possible. In other words, being possibilistic is having a clear and reasonable view about how things are, but also what they can lead to. I am possibilistic about the future, and I think we all should be, despite the grim headlines in the newspapers. I believe the progress being made in society today will lead to further progress, and it will even take us to our desired end goal, a just, equal society resilient to climate change. In terms of donut economics, a society where we meet the needs of all while avoiding to put too much pressure on Earth's biosphere. That is the goal. But it's not going to be easy to get there. While human society has generated significant economic value in the past, it has also weakened the resilience of planet Earth. Today, we have surpassed 6 out of 9 planetary boundaries as defined by the Stockholm Resilience Center. And to avoid the severe consequences associated with surpassing these planetary boundaries, such as escalating temperatures, water scarcity, food shortages, and even mass migration, it is absolutely imperative that we transition to a more sustainable human society. And unfortunately, incremental improvements to our current global systems are not enough. Instead, we must transform them. Continuing with business as usual is not a viable option. Breakthrough Energy Ventures defines 5 grand challenges that we need to overcome to get to net zero. We need a transformation of the agricultural system, manufacturing, transportation, buildings, and last but not least, electricity to get to net zero. And to cite Breakthrough's 2023 transition report, a core component of the world's net zero strategy is electrifying everything. In other words, we need to get electricity right if we want to get the other challenges right. So today, instead of preaching to the choir and talking to those of you that already are convinced that geothermal is a crucial part of a sustainable energy system, I'm actually turning to those of you who still not are convinced of the value of geothermal and the role it can play in our society. I'm turning to you who want to join the industry but still don't know if this is the right time or how you can do it. I'm turning to those of you who don't know how to contribute in your current role. I want to try to clear your doubts once and for all. Why? Because we need more people to join the industry. We need your contribution. So, first of all, maybe let's define the end game, the future that we want to create. Baseload Capital defines it as a planet in balance with resilient societies that run on renewable energy. And this is something that lies very close to my own heart. And I actually think that it's a compelling vision that everyone should be able to support. And if that's the end game, I bet your first question is maybe how geothermal energy is part of that. Well, think about it. Geothermal energy is one of those things that ticks all the boxes for creating a resilient society. It provides us with green heat, cooling, electricity, 24/7, 365 days per year. It can power transportation, housing, agriculture, production, and create meaningful work for a lot of people. Not to mention the amazing spas that can be built as well. So, geothermal helps us to make the energy system more sustainable, which is a prerequisite for creating a resilient society. Okay, great, but is the potential for geothermal really big enough to move the needle, you might ask? Well, the independent organization Project Inner Space, a great organization, they recently presented a report showing that if we would drill for geothermal energy at the same rate as we currently drill for oil and gas, up to 77% of global demand for electricity and over 100% of global demand for heat can be supplied by geothermal by 2050. But the good news is we don't have to take it all the way to 100%. While some argue, especially in this room, that this is the geothermal decade, I would still say that the 2020s are the solar decade. The world currently adds more than a whopping 200 gigawatts of new solar power each year. And the rate of deployment is growing. Wind shows a similar growth story, with more than 80 gigawatts of new installed capacity per year currently. Great! So is geothermal even needed? You know this already, but while solar is the world's cheapest production source, it will only produce energy when the sun is up. And modeling shows that at a 50% penetration, the marginal cost for a renewable electricity network goes up exponentially as storage is needed to even out the production curves. Short and long-term storage is advancing quickly and it will help to decarbonize the grids. But the, last 20%, that's the tricky part. And that's where geothermal plays a crucial role, providing flexible baseload production. Okay, great, but what about the cost, you might ask? Well, look at giants like Mercury, Ormat, Landsvirkjun, HS Orca, and Kengen. They all show that geothermal energy can be done profitable already today. And in addition, again citing Project Inner Space, only by adding existing technology from oil and gas, costs can go down between 20 to 40% from here. And what I think is even more exciting, there is a lot of new technology coming down the line from companies such as GA Drilling, Quaise, Fervo, Ever, Baker Hughes, Greenfire, and many, many, many more. And in addition to this, the US Department of Energy recently announced it's supplying $44 million to projects to significantly drive down costs of enhanced geothermal systems, with the aim to enable 90 gigawatt of production by 2050. So a lot is happening, and it's profitable already today. Okay, but does the customer really want it? I actually remember Peter Tate once said in a panel that we were participating in at the Geothermal Congress on Iceland, we need the end consumer to care and want geothermal. And it's still early days, but I think that this is actually happening. Companies like Google and Microsoft have set pioneering targets to balance all their consumption with renewable energy production in real time. And they are ready to invest in geothermal to make it happen. We also see how this unfortunate war in Ukraine has sparked a massive interest in geothermal energy in Europe for substituting gas. The market for ground source heat pumps is exploding as we speak, and companies like Innergy, Ever, Dandelion, GeoEgg, and many, many more are developing geothermal heating solutions. Also, on a country level, we see several countries such as the US, Kenya, Croatia, Taiwan, and many more. They are pushing for more geothermal. It's getting into the country policies. So, yes, I would say the customers care about geothermal. Okay, but what about the capital, you might ask? And I would say 5 years ago, we saw very low interest from the financial investors to support geothermal energy, but that has changed. Today, we see several investors following the footsteps of pioneering investors like Breakthrough Energy Ventures, Chevron, Baker Hughes, Temasek, and BP. And they now have geothermal as a focus area besides other renewables like solar and wind. Also, we see large infrastructure players. They're becoming more and more sophisticated, and they look for a way to enter the industry. Okay, so if it's not the potential of geothermal, if it's not the cost, if it's not the demand, and not the technology, what's holding geothermal back? And I think that is where you can come into the picture. I believe that the growth of geothermal is a matter of how many people we can mobilize. And we need more possibilistic people to join the industry that can use their competence to close the remaining gaps to make geothermal scale faster. We need people that can shorten development times, provide more capital, and commercialize new technologies to speed up the development. Remember, we need geothermal to get the energy system right. And we need to get the energy system right to get transportation, production, agriculture, and housing right. Geothermal is a crucial piece of the puzzle to create a resilient society. I'm committing my life to make this as a reality. And of course, I hope to do it together with you.
Well, I for sure hope to do that together with you the
Yes.
coming years.
I'm glad to have you on this journey.
Well, I'm glad to have you, definitely. It was a very inspiring speech, Magnus, and a big calling to people outside of this industry to
I
join
think
in.
the fact is, everyone we talk to, everyone loves the idea of geothermal. That's not the problem. What I think is important now is to bring them into the industry and really, show them that their efforts matter. I think that's the key.
If we would make a compelling case to people who are not in this industry yet, what would we say? Come to geothermal and you will get?
I mean, you will get a lifetime of excitement. I think, but I think we're in the same stage where wind power was maybe 20 years ago or 15 years ago, or solar was 15 years ago. You know, when you saw something, this is fantastic, this can become really big, but we have to get the wheels turning. It's the same now with geothermal. So, get on board.
I mean, I still recall the conversations we had in the beginning when we were setting up vision and mission, and we asked the staff, why do they actually work?
Yeah.
And I still remember Simon's answer to us, and he said, because I want to look my kids in the eyes or my grandchildren in the eyes when they ask me what I did in the 2020s to prevent this, and be honest and truthful about it. I think that's what you're going to get if you get into geothermal, right?
Yeah, of course. And there are many other industries with similar challenges as I mentioned that needs transformation. There's so much meaningful work to be done everywhere. But if you've experience from product development, finance, I don't know,
Marketing, sales.
Exact.
Yeah.
Just get in.
Yeah, I agree.
The demand is huge for us.
I couldn't agree more, and I think that we have an exciting couple of years to come. I mean, you've talked about a little bit what happened the last 5. What do you predict, like in 5 years from now? What are going to be the biggest developments?
So I think we will see a lot of new breakthrough technology announcements, new development in enhanced geothermal systems and advanced geothermal systems. And we will see more projects coming online, but we know it takes a couple of years to get a project online from exploration to commissioning. So we won't see that much in 5 years, but from 5 to 10 years, there will be much more projects coming online. But I think, if you look at the momentum and the pace of new announcements coming within geothermal, it's picking up speed. That's quite exciting, I think.
Actually, it's even hard to keep up right now because it's happening so much at the same time.
Yeah.
But still, we are having challenges. Of course, we spoke a little bit about it, or you spoke a little bit about it in your speech. If you would have like a magic wand and you would say, fix this for me, what would that be in order to frog leap with geothermal? What would you wish for?
I would actually think bigger than just geothermal. I would like to have that action plan. The resilient society. We need to get to net zero. We need to get to a resilient society. But what is the plan to get there? If we have the plan, it would be so much easier, and we can see what needs to happen in each of our societal systems at what pace, and we can do it in a structured order. Now we don't have that plan, so we have to do our best to figure that out as we move along. But if you can fix that, that would be great.
I can draw, I can visualize things, so let's just put together that
I know
map.
you can do amazing
Systemic
things.
changes. So we'll see. We'll take it up as a challenge.
Yes,
right?
That's great.
Well, thank you very much, Magnus, for joining us here today.
Thank you so much.
You were here the first speech. You are also doing the last seminar. Any last thoughts about what we've done here with the virtual seminar?
I think it's been great. It's been great for uniting the industry. I think there are many other industries and other companies that look at geothermal and say, okay, we also want an own TV show. We also want to highlight the work that we're doing. So I think that has been of tremendous importance to bring together players, showing what they're doing, and also inspiring others. I think that has really been the big value of these virtual seminars.
And you know a little bit about the secret, but we're not going to tell just yet.
When one door closes, another one opens. That's what I've heard.
High five.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
Thank you so
Magnus, for
much.
joining me here on stage. Thank you. Thank you, Magnus, for those enlightening insights. Now, let's transition seamlessly from our conversation with Magnus Brandberg to our next segment, where we will explore the perspectives from global associations, an integral part of any thriving industry. Associations play a crucial role in fostering collaboration, driving innovation, and shaping the trajectory of an industry. They serve the connective issues, they bring together diverse perspectives and experiences. Speaking of which, we are honored to have a distinguished panel of directors from prominent organizations who have been instrumental in shaping our geothermal landscape. Soon enough, you are going to meet our panelists. We have Sylvain Brogel, President, International Geothermal Association, IGA. We have Brian Jones, Executive Director of Geothermal Rising. We have Taylor Matty, Director of Technology Transfer and Deployment at Project Innerspace. And last but not least, Philippe Dumas, Secretary General at European Geothermal Energy Council, EGEC. To lead this conversation, we have no other than our amazing Pernilla Wihlborg, COO of Baseload Capital and CEO of Baseload Power. She is not only the driving force behind our power companies, but also an essential part of where we came from and what we have become. She, of any, have extensive experience of how we can transition things. And I'm very happy that she will be leading the conversation with our esteemed colleagues from the industries. Pernilla, please take it away.
Hello, everybody. I am absolutely delighted to be here and to guide you through this special panel with some esteemed directors in the geothermal field. But before we dive into it, I just want to get a feel for where everybody is at the moment. So let's do a classic check-in. And I want to give you a challenge here if we can do it in, say, 10 seconds per person. So Brian, do you want to kick it off? What's happening in your world at the moment?
Well, I'm here in Idaho, where it's now cold and snowing as we enter the winter season. But Geothermal Rising is excited about the year that we've just wrapped up, and we're excited about what's going to be happening next year. There's a lot of partnerships that are forming with all of the other panelists and many other organizations, and we are excited for what's in store for the geothermal industry around the whole globe.
Thank you for that. Philip, do you want to continue? What's up with you these days?
Traveling every week. I'm in Pisa because we are developing research innovation in Europe. I was last week in Berlin because we were doing geothermal heat pumps all over Europe. We have more than 2 million. Next week, I'm in Munich because Weatherford will organize a big event. So it's booming geothermal all over Europe, and also in the European Parliament, we have such a recognition. All members, European Parliament, 500 members, politicians will vote. The report say we need more geothermal in 1 month.
Thank you. So a lot of travel for you then, I hear. Taylor, how about you? How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. And my world is also doing great. We have a lot of fun announcements coming up from Project Innerspace in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for those.
I absolutely will. Looking forward to hearing it. And Sylvain, tell me about your world these days.
Yeah, so my dear colleagues have already summarized what's going on. I mean, we are knowing that the booming is taking off since a couple of years. But those days, really, we are really busy going around the world. I just came back from a big Caribbean and Central America tour. And we are looking forward to work on different events in Latin America and promoting geothermal at the COP28 in Dubai. So that's why our team is very busy with our 6 VP, Vice President, which I have nominated for IGA all over the world.
Again, a lot of traveling, a lot of things that are going on. I'm really excited to hear it. And the reason that you are all here today is because you, of course, have a wealth of experience within geothermal, and that's what we're here to talk about. So maybe, Sylvain, if you can continue to reflect a bit on the last 5 years of geothermal. What are the top 3 significant developments that you can identify?
So what we noticed in the last 5 years, I would forget the 2 latest one, the 2 oldest one, and I would come back to 3 last years, which have really come up with a very big interest of developing geothermal around the world. So as I have taken over IGA in May this year, I took an IGA orientated, more academic, which we have changed in industries. And myself coming from the industry world, I have noticed that all the industries are now really having, at least the big ones, departments somewhere related to geothermal. And on the other hand, in terms of political support, and Philippe can confirm that from the European side, we noticed that the countries and the governments are having at least a division or people in charge of geothermal since the last 3 years. And this is helping very, very much of developing our activity worldwide.
Thank you. Philip, do you want to continue and maybe add your thoughts to this?
Yeah, so indeed, if we look at the last 5 years, was a confirmation that geothermal is growing. We have reached some good milestone, now more than 2 million geothermal heat pumps installed in Europe, 400 geothermal fixing systems. Both we have doubled in 10 years now, the number of systems installed, 150 power plants, 50 more in 10 years. So we have reached some milestone. What is good for us is the confirmation that growing, we are not anymore a niche market, but in many markets we are becoming quite mainstream and quite developed. So that is really great achievement we see in market development. Of course, with a lot of new actors. What I noticed for the last 5 years, of course, it's the in our business to oil and gas service companies and actors, and we hope to be a real game changer for us. So indeed, we are in a phase where we see some exponential growth, and we face also the issue of exponential growth because we need to ensure the supply chain is answering to this growth.
That's an excellent last point. We need even more players into the industry for that, right? So having new players is a good sign for sure. Taylor, do you want to add?
Yeah, so Philippe touched on it. The transition of oil and gas into geothermal is one of the big 3 developments of the last few years. And that's on a global level, and it's both operators and service companies. The other 2 things that I would say are the significant developments: new startups with the new technologies that are complementary to geothermal and oil and gas. You know, the new next generation drilling companies that are out there. And then the third thing that I think hasn't necessarily been touched on directly is there's been a change in energy demand for geothermal. There's a change in the way that energy is supplied on a global level, especially within Europe and the Ukrainian war. But there's also been a change in the market reward system for geothermal, and how that the market is starting to see the intrinsic value that comes from geothermal, from its smaller footprint, its baseload supply, its ability to supply heat and power. So all of these things are starting to change and have been changing in the last 5 years. And that's what's led to this point right now where we're seeing an accelerated growth rate of geothermal and an increased interest on a global level.
Interesting. So that sort of change in energy demand and how people view geothermal, is that something that has surprised you would say, or was it something you were expecting?
I would say it's something that we all were hoping for. There's a lot of different examples of how it's manifesting. Like there's a recent mandate within California to pretty much bring on 1 gigawatt of geothermal, but it doesn't explicitly say geothermal. It says that California needs to add 1 gigawatt of baseload clean energy supply. And when you don't have any sort of hydrothermal resources that could be tapped for that sort of thing, it only leaves geothermal. So I would say that it's not necessarily a surprise. What I would say is a surprise is the fact that a lot of the negative things that have happened in the last couple of years have been a catalyst for energy transition. Like COVID-19 really was a Kickstarter for accelerated growth rate of geothermal as it relates to like oil and gas companies looking to get into it at a heavier investment. But then I mentioned too, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia was also a major catalyst for geothermal demand within Europe, when suddenly you have issues with natural gas supply and you need to still be able to heat your communities and your houses. And countries all over Europe are looking for our domestic heat supply and energy security. Now that Russian gas is quite a volatile thing.
Yeah, very interesting. Brian, turning to you, if you reflect on the past 5 years, is there anything you want to add to the previous speakers? And a more direct question: what would be the surprising elements that you wouldn't have thought would happen?
For me, one of the big changes, and that's been significant for developing and deploying geothermal, is the policy and regulatory landscape has dramatically been changing. And we've been seeing a lot of states in the United States that don't normally have, are not normally thought of when it comes to geothermal, passing very significant geothermal legislation. So states like Minnesota, New York, Texas, Colorado, Massachusetts, they're all advancing specific geothermal specific legislation, whether that's new programs for deploying geothermal or whether it's new tax credits or redefining and clarifying what the subsurface resource is when it comes to when we're referring to geothermal and who owns the resource. At the federal level, we're seeing a lot of momentum around ground source heat pump tax credits of up to 50% that were in the Inflation Reduction Act, and that's for every aspect of heat pumps, including ductwork and the heat pumps themselves. There's the extended tax credits for geothermal power in the IRA as well, and as Taylor has mentioned, California and other states California has now mandated 1,000 megawatts of clean, firm baseload power, and they've also added onto that through their preferred systems plan another 1,000 megawatts of geothermal power. So that's 2,000 megawatts that California itself is pushing, and other states are looking at that regulatory pathway as a way to stabilize their grids, which has been a significant challenge in the United States, at least. So that's one thing. I think another is that we've had over 50 new geothermal startups in the past 3 years, and these companies are often led by pioneers from the oil and gas industry. And then the geothermal community itself is empowered and made up of passionate people, and that is advancing geothermal forward right now.
Yeah, I fully agree. So the fact that the regulatory environment is really driving this and it's going quite fast, and that you felt was a bit surprising. Sylvain, do you agree with that, or do you see something different?
No, I fully agree about what Brian said in the American context, which is also the case in some European context, but in some other countries, the regulatory framework and the legal framework is still painful to develop geothermal projects. And we are helping on that to smooth and to speed up the situation. You can have an example in the Caribbean, where I'm just coming from. You can see that many projects we were talking about years ahead, we are talking about 10, 15 years of a project before we see light of this project, and a typical example is Dominica. And here you can see that among the financial issue of financing a geothermal project on the early stage with the de-risking, that the legal framework is also a very complete issue, and the acceptability is another issue of different country, which is at least not speeding up our projects.
Yeah, I mean, we are experiencing that in some of our Asian markets as well. So I fully can relate to what you're saying. So switching then to forward-looking, what is the one thing that you would really like to see progress faster now going forward, and where the focus should be? Philippe, do you have an idea there?
In Europe, the issue, it's the one of tomorrow, is that we need to have a security of heating and cooling supply for this winter all over Europe. And we know that it will not be easy in many countries to have that. And we have a perfect solution, geothermal. We know that everywhere we can develop geothermal heating and cooling with low temperature, with heat pumps, we can do that everywhere. So we just see now, finally, the recognition of a local security of supply is important, and especially when it's renewable. And we are affordable. So we have all the elements to move forward. Indeed, the challenge, as I mentioned, is that we need to have a fast exponential growth. I was mentioning 2 million geothermal heat pumps. We need to have 6 million in 3 years. We need to have 10 million in 10 years. In geothermal district heating, we have 400 geothermal district heating. We need to triple that in less than 10 years. So of course, we need fast permitting, we need funding, we need all the flanking measures, but we need to do that. There's no alternative to not do that.
So even though regulatory has moved fast in the past, we need to continue to focus on it to make it even faster going forward.
What is in the pipe in Europe is to and a fast permitting process. So it's what we have obtained in European legislation framework. All member states, all countries in Europe, they need less than 1 month approval for geothermal heat pumps and less than 1 year approval for deep geothermal projects. It's a legal measures.
Yeah. Taylor, what do you think the focus should be going forward now?
Everything. So
course.
I'll add to. I mean, Felipe is spot on, right? We're not moving fast enough on any of these fronts, right? And I think it's important that we put this into perspective on why we need to be moving fast in technology and regulatory and all these issues, right? So 2015, the Paris Climate Accord says that we cannot exceed a global temperature increase of 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2100 without seeing irreversible damage to the planet and the climate, right? Right now, we're predicted to hit that 1.5 C mark in 2040. We are at 1.1 C right now. I mean, this is a serious issue that my children will suffer for, and all of our children will suffer for. We have to move faster in regulatory and the capital raise, the social awareness, like all of this needs to be moving at a much more accelerated rate. Personally, and through the mission of Project Innerspace, we see this as being only enabled through oil and gas, and they got to move faster too. It's a multi-trillion-dollar market when you can leverage the infrastructure that oil and gas has, and if you add up all of the revenues of the past, like the top 5 OFS service companies last year, it was over $50 billion, right? The investment from oil and gas needs to be much, much higher in geothermal than what it is now if we are going to be able to meet the requirements to not have a screwed up planet in a couple of years. And it's just really, it's not moving fast enough. So it all has to get accelerated.
Yeah, that touches my heart and probably a lot of others. We needed to leave a planet behind that we can be proud of. Bryant, anything to add from your end? Do you agree with the others?
I want to build on Taylor's comment there of social awareness. We need to. Geothermal is such a small industry. We're a very small community. There's a lot of misconceptions and myths about what geothermal is and what it isn't. That's part of what all of our roles are as nonprofits and associations in the geothermal industry, in this geothermal community. So building social awareness, helping different communities that want different things out of geothermal. I mean, one thing I see about geothermal is that the more people learn about it, the more obsessed they become. It has merits and benefits that everybody appreciates, no matter what your political stripes are. And so as the spokes organizations for the geothermal industry, our job is to build that social awareness. And so more events, more activities, more partnerships. We're working on a lot of those right now among all 4 of us, and including Baseload Capital, that they're having more events next year. For example, we have our Thermal Energy Network event. We have our Indigenous Geothermal Forum. We have a Geothermal Off-Takers Symposium, a Critical Minerals Symposium, a Drilling and AI conference. So we have a lot more activities because we need to build that social awareness, and we need to do it together. And so the alignment of geothermal associations and nonprofits working together to remove any socially constructed barriers that we've artificially set up, whether that's by technology or geography, and think of geothermal as this holistic ecosystem that offers a buffet of solutions that will help us draw down the climate crisis. Geothermal creates geopolitical stability. We can reduce the clean energy transition's reliance on critical minerals. We can leverage the oil and gas workforce and the technology that's important. We can improve public health. All of this we can do together. And so that's what Geothermal Rising will be focusing on in the future here.
I'm really glad to hear it. So now we talked about what you want to see going forward, what you think the focus should be. Now I'm going to ask you to make a prediction. So for the remainder of this decade, it could be the geothermal decade, as many has said. What's your prediction of something that's going to happen? Sylvain, you want to go first?
Yeah, let me just go back to one point of we are all agreed that we have to go faster and develop geothermal. But here we are coming probably to face a real problem that going too fast is always creating a problem in the industry following us with the technology, with the equipment, but also in the qualification of the engineers. And now those days we can see in Europe and all over the world that projects are heating up, but we do have a problem to find either equipment or qualified labor to execute the project. So this is also an important subject that part of our job, all of us, is to develop a very good qualification and training program of even the people moving from the oil and gas do know exactly what geothermal is and will be in the future. So that's just to finish the subject of before. So looking into yeah, thank you. So looking into the 5 years to come, or even more, I think the decade will look great in development on geothermal, and everybody is excited all over the world. But I do think that the progress which will be made very substantially will be in direct use of the geothermal, either in district heating with heat pump or with deep or whatsoever, but also from the industry-wise and the application in the food, in the sovereignty of food securing of different countries, that geothermal can play an important role. And I think mainly about African countries and Asian countries, where we are developing this with all our different partners. So the future is really will be interesting, and we'll know a lot of development in geothermal, and all the people ready to finance. Why, as you know, finance for green funds are available worldwide, and the point is just to find projects and to agree that we should speed up together with the financial institution and the industries that the projects are getting faster. So for me, the decade to come will know a big progress in maybe not in the States regarding the district heating, but in other countries, in Europe, in Asia, in Middle East, the district heating and cooling is really a subject that geothermal will grow or triple in the next decade.
Very good. So, Bryant, what's your thinking of the future, or what do you predict?
I agree with Sylvain about the district heating, or what is now more frequently being called thermal energy networks. We're going to see a lot of growth in that space. I think also in the United States, North America context, we're seeing a lot of municipalities struggling with recent mandates to stop using natural gas. And so what do those public utilities do with their infrastructure? We now have states, Minnesota, Massachusetts, Colorado, and municipalities across the country that are starting to create these mandates, put these into place. How do we avoid stranded oil and gas assets? Those are questions that geothermal has solutions for. I also think that for predictions on more to global stage, I think that growth in Africa around geothermal is going to be a big driver in the coming years. And I'll put this one out there that hydrogen advocates will realize that their industry won't succeed without geothermal. And right now in the United States, the Department of Energy just released all the locations of all the hydrogen hubs, and geothermal didn't have a large presence in that news release, and that is, without geothermal, the hydrogen industry is going to struggle, and once they realize it and come on board, it'll be a boost for the geothermal industry.
Interesting. Philippe, do you want to continue? What's your prediction?
Yeah, I will build on what Sylvain already said. It's what we want to have next year. What we want is a pan-European geothermal industrial strategy. Indeed, we need a planning of this exponential growth. As mentioned by Sylvain, with the workforce, with much more upskilling, reskilling of people to be sure we are delivering. But we need also manufacturing capacity. We need components, equipment, materials, rigs, manufacture, and enough available in the market. So we need a planning of a strategy, industrial strategy. And I hope next year we have that. It will allow the workforce and will have disruption in the supply chain. And I will build note on what Brian said. I will go beyond you. You say you cannot achieve objective of hydrogen with geothermal. I think, and I'm a believer, we cannot do energy transition without geothermal. It will not be successful, not because of geothermal electricity, but also because geothermal heating and cooling, because of thermal underground storage. And it's one achievement I want to see in the next years is the big development of underground thermal storage, especially high temperature. Last but not least, if we are able also, it will be a good milestone to supply mineral, to supply lithium in the next 5 years at a commercial scale. It will be a game changer. So indeed, we have new milestone. But two things: we need the planning of a neutral strategy, and we need to ensure everybody that we cannot do energy transition with geothermal.
Thank you very much. And Taylor, what are your predictions?
So I think that we will see between 1 and 3 major technology breakthroughs within the geothermal space that will both reduce the levelized costs of geothermal and increase the capabilities of geothermal to be deployed in a larger geographic area. I think that the technology breakthroughs will also have the effect of equalizing the playing field between geothermal and solar and wind when it comes to the perspective of the capital markets for investing into renewable energies. Right now it's a lot easier for capital investment to look at solar and wind and say, I know what I'm going to get. If I invest $1 million into a solar farm, it's very easy to predict the energy output and your business case and your return on the investment. Right now with geothermal, it's pretty difficult to do that because of the exploration risk and the upfront costs and all of the issues that a lot of us are familiar with. But I think that there will be some technology breakthroughs that will help to change that and to make geothermal a lot more attractive to a broader capital base.
Very good, thank you. So we have technology breakthroughs, we have more direct use of geothermal, we have geothermal acting as a, spurge for hydrogen, and last but not least, the energy transition cannot happen without geothermal. That and many, many more takeaways is what I will have when leaving this session. And I really want to thank all of you for participating here and sharing all of your insights and reflections on this very important topic. So thank you very much. And with that, I am handing over back to you, Christina.
Thank you, Pernilla, for your facilitation, and a heartfelt thank you to the esteemed panel for sharing invaluable insights. Now, without further ado, let's smoothly transition to our next segment with the introduction of our distinguished speaker. I'm thrilled to introduce Matthias Goldman, the founder of the 2030 Secretariat and the CEO of Goldman Green. Mr. Goldman has earned the title of Sweden's most influential in sustainability, receiving knighthood from the French president for his exceptional climate work. A recipient of the Lobbyist of the Year award, he has served as the Chief Sustainability Officer of Europe's largest technical consultancy firm, Sweco. He has been CEO of the Sweden Green and Liberal think tank Force. He is spokesperson for the Swedish Green Motorist and elected for office to the Swedish Green Party. Well, you see, it's a very esteemed man I will present to you. Currently, he is residing in Bangkok. He focuses on sustainability, mobility, and the CEO of Goldman Green and the founder and spokesperson of the 2030 Secretariat for a fossil-independent transport sector. Today, he will enlighten us with his speech that is titled 7 Deadly Sins, based on his book, Sin to Win for People, Planet and Profit, tailored specifically for the context of geothermal energy. Now, without further delay, let's give a warm welcome to Matthias Goldman as he takes the stage.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Christina. I really feel like a rock star here. And more generally, a huge thank you to all you out there who are part of bringing sustainable, renewable energy as part of the equation and as the new normal. I am excited to share with you some ideas on how we can move further, faster together in the switch to more renewables and more specifically, a better future for geothermal energy. I will start where Christina left off. I was just at a different conference where somebody was disappointed that I didn't talk enough about myself. You didn't even introduce yourself, I was told. But now, in fact, I don't have to, because Christina did that so wonderfully. And also, if by chance you want to learn more about me, well, Google is there for you. But really, the one not at all important issue of this brief session is me. The important persons here are you. The important subject ahead of us is to make a positive impact. And the positive impact I'm thinking about is that, quite literally, unfortunately, the world is on fire. There is no time to waste, and we need to ensure that the Paris Agreement and the science-based targets and the decision and understanding that we need to halve emissions decade by decade will finally start happening. Of course, we're not there at all. We just had the United Nations GAP report published, which is the basis for the upcoming COP28 meeting, showing that we need to get our act together urgently, because not only do we see here and there the fires and the storms and the droughts and the floodings, but we also break the records of hottest temperature ever with an alarming regularity now. It's like those records were meant to be broken, and they were meant to be broken with huge margins, but that's not at all the case. This is now becoming so scary, so that in fact the UN General Secretary Antonio Guterres says that we are probably nearing the end of global warming. And a millisecond, we might think, well, that's good news. Have we found a solution? Are we all going renewable? Are we all going geothermal? No. When Guterres says that we might end the era of global warming, it's because we are probably entering the era of global boiling, which is something we cannot afford. We need to say that's not where we want to go. We're going to get our act together. We're going to switch to something more sustainable. And of course, when we say something more sustainable, top of mind for most people is solar and wind. And don't get me wrong, I have nothing against solar and wind. In fact, I'm a great believer in all kinds of sustainable, renewable energy. But I don't want it to be quite as much top of mind, because that is to the detriment of other sustainable solutions, including the one that we're focusing on today, the wonderful opportunities that geothermal poses. And that is why, just like Christina mentioned, I want to go through briefly from my book, Klimatsynder, soon finally out there in English, then called Sin to Win, on how we use the 7 deadly sins. We systematically commit the 7 deadly sins in the name of combating climate change, and more specifically, as Christina mentioned, more specifically also to make sure that there's a better awareness, increased understanding, and a stronger drive for more geothermal energy. A lot of us know these 7 deadly sins because they are, in fact, much more known than wordings from the Bible or so forth. These are cross-cultural, cross-religious. Even if you feel that you're strictly not religious at all, you will resonate and relate to the 7 deadly sins across all ages, across all cultures. So let's just go for it. And I'm going to start with the first of those 7 deadly sins, with the one that I find probably the most disagreeable. We'll come to some other deadly sins that are, fairly nice. But the first one here, greed, is the one where we don't want to be. We don't want to be the greedy person in the room. And typically, over time, the environmental movement, of which I see myself as a part, has clearly not been greedy. We've been challenging greed, saying, well, maybe we should even challenge the market economy. We cannot have perpetual economic growth. We should not have quarterly economic reports. We should have less demands on companies to produce a profit and so forth. Now, I believe it's time to change that whole story and to embrace greed. And my example of that is, I believe this man might be the greediest man on the planet, Larry Fink. He's the chairman and CEO of BlackRock. BlackRock is the biggest institutional investor in the world. They've got more money than a random country like Sweden. And they are now moving that money, as Larry Fink explains in his yearly letters to all the interested parties out there. They're now moving that money from unsustainable to sustainable, from linear to circular, from fossil to renewable. And that's not because Larry woke up one morning and became an environmental climate evangelist. Far from it. It's because he's worried about if he has the money in fossil fuels, and suddenly the world just means a little bit of what we're saying with the Paris Agreement. That is going to be stranded assets, not worth much. If, on the other hand, he moves the money to solar, wind, geothermal, other sustainable solutions, he's on to a winning streak, because those are going to be the new normal, of course. So greed is now finally playing with us. And another aspect when it comes to geothermal is that there's been this understanding or misunderstanding from a lot of my environmental and climate peers that we need to combat the oil industry. I think that's probably not a winning solution. I think it's more interesting to play with the big guys than to try and challenge them. And I am so excited to see that a lot of the knowledge, tremendous experience, and hundreds of years of doing oil can now be put to good use in geothermal. It's a lot of what we see happening in geothermal is based on the knowledge from the oil industry. And that is why greed is so clearly helping us as the number one deadly sin to become more of players in terms of going for more geothermal. But also challenge us to give each and every one out there a clearer opportunity to be part of that greed. Because, for instance, this is an actual example. You can scan that QR code if you want. For instance, the solar people are very good at making each and every one of us part of the solar revolution. And I haven't as yet seen that quite as clearly on the geothermal side. That is challenge number one from the sin number one. Let's move on to a nicer sin. This is probably the nicest of the seven, the sloth deadly sin, or the laziness. Typically, the environmental movement has not at all been about laziness. The person that doesn't care about the climate is the one that can be lazy, can just take his car and go instead of walking to the public transport station, can just throw all the things in the garbage instead of sorting out the different materials and going to different places with them. It's been hard work being climate and environmental conscious. And I think that's now changing. Finally, we can use laziness to get further, faster together in terms of combating climate change. My favorite example that I think we can build on is car sharing. If you own a car, you need to take care of insuring it, paying the annual taxes, paying road taxes, fueling it and refueling it. In Sweden, you even need to change from winter to summer tires and back again. You always need to wash the car, of course, find long-term parking when you're not using it, and so forth. If you're part of car sharing or carpooling, out of sight is out of mind. Car only when you want to. The rest of the time you can focus on something else, like this guy lying in the grass. And I believe that laziness can also be used for geothermal, because, of course, if you focus on some of the other lovely, sustainable, renewable energy sources, well, the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow, but geothermal is there always. So once installed, you can just relax, hang out and chill. The geothermal is going to be there for you. I think that's an underutilized deadly sin in terms of moving further, faster with geothermal. My third of the 7 deadly sins, in the rapid pace here, because I know we got lots of things on the agenda, is envy. Envy is also one of the deadly sins I don't like. I don't like to be envious of my good friend who does well in his career, or colleagues that are being promoted when I'm not, and so forth. But it's a great driving force for change. And historically, it's not been helpful for combating climate change. People were envious of the one who could afford to fly all the way to Thailand. Now that's nobody's envious of that anymore, because everybody in our context can. People were envious of the huge SUV that somebody was driving. That is also over. Now we see envy for sustainable energy, perhaps most clearly so with solar power. There are now maps, I'm sure you've seen them, on where the most adequate locations would be for solar power. And then there's other maps for PV. And then there's other maps of where the photovoltaic installations are actually taking place. And they hardly overlap. So I was asking some of these installers, how come? What are you asked when you come and you're going to install the solar panels? And they say, well, the number one question we get is, can we put them somewhere, these solar panels, so that they can be seen by the neighbors or the customers or the employees at the company? In fact, even better, can we put them somewhere so that solar lights is a little bit reflected and shines right into the eyes of my neighbors? So it's clearly an envy-driven change here, which is easier if it's something that you put on the roof than if it's something that's below ground. Something happened here in my presentation. I'm going to go straight back and show you the number 4. That's maybe there was censorship here because number 4 in my book is Lust. And it's exciting to see that when I meet people who have my book, I ask them, did you read it? And they said, of course I read your book. And then I asked them, well, did you read all of it? And they said, I haven't found the time yet. And then I take their book and just randomly open it to see where it opens. Always the chapter of Lust. That's where people go first. And in fact, one of my examples there is the car company that you see in front of you, Tesla, which is higher valued than any other car company, or higher valued than the top 5 other car companies combined, even though it produces much less cars. As you know, it always only makes electric cars since day one. It doesn't focus on climate. It doesn't focus on being electric. It focuses on lust. The 4 models that Tesla proposes for us are the S, E, X, Y. Those of you knowing cars well will see that it's not actually the E, because that was taken by Jaguar E-Type. It's the free, but they put it as an E to get the message across that this is about lust. And when I ask Tinder, how do you get swiped in the right direction so that you get that first date? Tinder says, if you have a picture with you and a big gas-guzzling SUV, that's not going to get you that first date. If, on the other hand, you're either with a bike, running with a dog, or seen with a Tesla or some other electric car, you will get to that first date. So lust is clearly helping us now moving into more sustainable transport. And here's where I want to sort of censor myself, because I had some exciting examples about how we can use lust, but I think it's better for you to find them yourself and use this 4th of the 7 deadly sins for geothermal energy. Moving on to the 5th of the 7 deadly sins, it's one that I find hard to talk about because it's anger. And I grew up, my whole environmental consciousness started with anger, demonstrating against unsustainable energy at the age of 8 with my mom, or against animal testing at the Lund hospital in South Sweden. But then later on I thought, is this the most efficient way to be outside protesting, or can I make better use of myself being on the inside, putting on a tie and becoming Chief Sustainability Officer and all those other things that were mentioned in the beginning? So I downplayed my anger. And I think maybe a lot of us in this room did the same thing. And I think maybe we went too far. Maybe we should realize the potential of anger. And my example here is when Trump was elected, the first and hopefully the only time. When Trump was elected and left the Paris Agreement, he created a global wave of anger that was very helpful for the climate. When he left the Paris Agreement, the state of California said, we want to still be in. And of course, the Paris Agreement only allows for countries. But since we were so upset with this Trump guy, we said, all right, come on in. And we said the same to the city of New York, and we said the same to the company of General Motors and so forth. The anger that Trump digs coal and everything he was about provoked really helped the climate movement. And of course, this anger has to be directed against somebody who's bigger than you. And that is the beauty of geothermal, that most other energy sources, but particularly the fossil ones, are bigger than you. There's other causes for anger in my head, like Russia's attack on Ukraine. You will easily find a source that you can use for your anger, but make sure that the source of your anger is the Goliath and you are the David, so that you get the proportions right. And also we need to factor in that sometimes what we do, even though we strongly believe in it and know that it's sustainable and know that it's for the benefit of mankind, sometimes it will provoke anger. And that is also something that we need to deal better with. Sometimes we try and meet this anger, this anxiety that we see in front of us here. We try and meet that with logical reasoning only. And we know that it's not going to work. We need to find better ways of addressing the anger that's directed towards us, sort of a judo style. So we take that force and use it against, of course, the common enemy, the fossil fuels. Sixth out of the seven deadly sins, gluttony. It's sometimes portrayed as being only about food, but it's really about consuming mass quantities of anything. It could, for instance, be mass quantities of culture. And that, of course, is climate benign. But with a lot of the consumption of food is not. And also a lot of the consumption of food, what you're going to have on your plate at the next meal, is something that we cannot take for granted unless we halt climate change. Because 1 year of drought, 1 year of flooding, that's okay. Farmers will kick back. 2 years, still okay. 3 years or more, a lot of the things we've taken for granted are never going to come back. And that is why also it's so exciting to see how already now geothermal is part of the solution to make sure that a lot of the things that we want to have on our plates and we want to enjoy with our friends can be there in the future as well. This is from Iceland. This is a meeting held, maybe not a meeting, they have a nice dinner amongst friends, heated up by geothermal. All those tomatoes growing in Iceland is thanks to geothermal. Them sitting inside in a nice cozy greenhouse, again, heated with geothermal. So you're part even of the sixth deadly sin solution to gluttony. Finally, the seventh deadly sin, pride. I know that not all of us are Swedish, but I am, so I want to briefly mention the Swedish climate target and how that happened. After the Paris Agreement, the 7 parties that were interested in combating climate change in Swedish politics, from the left to the conservatives, got together to decide on Sweden's future climate target. They started out by saying, okay, so how much is Sweden's share of the overall global emissions? Could it be 1%? No, it's less. Could it be 0.5? No, it's less. In fact, it's only 0.15%. That is so little. So that if Sweden were now secretly to just turn off all cameras, to turn off all the engines out there, to breathe in and not breathe out again. If we did that secretly, those CO2 equivalent monitors around the globe would not even notice. Nobody would notice. And then, of course, these 7 parties could have said, all right, let's then focus on something else. It doesn't matter what we do, right? But they did something completely opposite. They embraced the deadly sin of pride. They said, all right, so if we're only 0.15% of global emissions, our only chance of relevance is being so good in combating climate change so that others will be inspired. We are going to be the permanent climate-friendly solutions. We're going to be the global help desk for climate. This is Climate Sweden. How can we help you? That is why Sweden decided on the world's toughest climate targets. It was a 7-party agreement. The 8th party was not aboard, but in fact, the other week they also joined. So all 8 parties in Sweden joined in saying that the only way that we can be relevant is by being something that others can follow. And after that, Finland did the same. The Netherlands did the same. Norway with electric cars and so forth. We are now all understanding that we need to, or we should, and we can use pride as a driving force to combating climate change. And I had to look hard to find examples on how geothermal is currently using pride as something that you're building your story around. And I think I'm ordering this t-shirt. I'm excited about wearing it, but I'm thinking that most of us don't clearly enough show the pride that we feel and the pride that our cities, regions, countries, and companies and households using geothermal should feel when using this abundant, renewable, reliable source of energy. So finally, if Katarina will give me time later when we have a brief discussion, I would love to share a survey that we did at the think tank Fores about what makes a difference. But in very brief words, what makes a difference and who makes a difference? It's you and I. Let's not wait for others, because that wait we simply do not have the time for. So if you want to see the change, be the change. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Matthias, for joining us today. The speech was amazing. It was really, truly what we needed. But I also think this is exactly what actually geothermal industry needed. Because the end, what you finished with, the pride part, is something that I really personally think is something we can bring with us. We need to be proud of geothermal and what it can actually do, and need to market it very much in order so everybody gets to know more about it. So thank you very much for that speech.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I have, of course, a ton of questions, but I'm a little bit curious starting on like when you started to prepare this material, what were your biggest surprises when you read up on geothermal and learning more? What were your thoughts when you were preparing?
Well, I'm actually so grateful that I got to speak at this conference because it really meant a steep learning curve for myself. I used to live in Kenya some years back, and so a lot of my knowledge about geothermal is from there. But since then, technology has moved on, and I'm so excited to see both that it's possible to drill much deeper than before, also that with other sources than water, we can get steam at much lower temperature. You can drill at so many different angles. All these technological breakthroughs that have happened or are about to happen means that this is so much more relevant in so many more places than I realized.
Well, I'm a little bit objective here, but subjective, but I agree with you, of course. But continuing on the same track, what do you think geothermal should do more, less, or differently in order to be a part of the renewable agenda even more in the future? What's your advice?
I think it's, part of my advice are those 7 deadly sins that I think that we should systematically commit. But also, I always like to, tag on or hang on to a winning team. If we see that it's going a little bit better for some of the other parts of the equation, for solar and wind, for example, let's see what they did well, and let's make sure that we form those relevant partnerships. Because often we see different sources of renewable energy as competing with each other, which is it's partially true, but also as has been pointed out throughout this day, we see that they go so well together because geothermal is always there. Geothermal is the base load that solar and wind struggle.
Yeah. What about, your sector there where you are right now in transport? Do you see any connections that can be made that are not made yet within geothermal and transport?
Oh yeah, so much. First of all, we know that we need more electricity for the switch to sustainable mobility. And that, of course, has to be green. Otherwise, half of the point in going electromobility is lost. And in some of the countries where I'm excited about working, the wind is not great. And as we already mentioned, solar is not there 24 hours a day. So the combination with geothermal can really help electromobility forward.
So I hope that you, within half an hour after this is broadcasted, get at least 10 calls from the geothermal community with pitching a lot of ideas here, because I know that there is a lot of knowledge and innovation within the geothermal community that can probably be pitched and talked about together with you. And with your mindset and with your expertise that you already have, who knows what can happen?
I'm waiting by the phone.
Good there. Thank you. Well, Matthias, it's time to summarize this interview. Do you have any final advice or word that you wanted to leave the viewers with today?
Yes, be proud of what you're doing, because nothing beats really digging into and enjoying what we do. If we're proud and enjoy it, we will win.
We will take that with us, definitely. Thank you very much, Matthias, from the bottom of our heart. See you around, and go wait by the phone now because it's calling.
All right.
See ya. Pride in our industry. That is something that I will take away from conversations with Matthias. But now it is time to take us further, and just in a few moments on stage I will introduce the remarkable Gabriella Skog. She's not your average geologist, actually. No. She's a creative director here at Baseload Capital, and is probably the only geologist or creative director that is a geologist. I don't know how to say this, but why we do this is because we really want to make sure to listen and talk to the industry and to show what we can be proud about. She is going to talk to Alexander Richter from Think Geoenergy, and it is going to be an interesting and probably exciting conversation about the future. I'm not going to tell you more. But before that, it is time to have a little bit of a laugh. We've had 7 seminars going on and recording here. And I promise you, the material we're going to show you now is just snippets of what has been going on behind the camera. I hope this offers you a great laughter. Take your coffee, relax, and here comes the bloopers of the century.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
In geothermal here and now, you will never make it. Ooh, spicy. Now we will actually enjoy the band for a while. Do you think it's time?
I was told there's going to be cinnamon buns here as well.
Yeah, but you and me can go for cinnamon buns while they play some music. Good idea. He's a digital transformation consultant who utilizes his experience in Six Sigma and all of these very, very difficult words to mention and long-term profitability. As of late, he's been working more and more with analyzing his clients. With me by my side, I had the perfect partner, actually, Jesper Jolma. It is time to move on to the next segment. And I'll be honest with you, I've been dying to interview the next guest for quite some time, actually. And I'm delighted to have the chance here and now.
From the beginning.
He is representing Baker Hughes with more than 40 years experience in the geothermal sector, delivering tech that helps overcome the challenges associated with. I really agree with you, and I think that you're basically putting your head on the topic. You're putting as we say in Sweden, you put the hammer on the spike, on the nail, I would say.
Thank you, Alex. That's very kind, Alex. Thank you for your words. It's very nice to be joining you all here today.
Well, I don't know about you, but bloopers has always been my favorite part of movies and productions, always. After all, we're all humans, and our next human on the show has been a part of the show a couple of times. But more importantly, he has been a part of the geothermal world for a really, really long time. He founded Think Geoenergy already in 2008, and now it's one of the biggest geothermal platforms in the world, with thousands of readers every day, myself included. Since then, he has been a major spokesperson within the geothermal world, aligning and educating and discussing and spreading the word of geothermal globally. He has served as an AGI director since 2013, was its president from 2016 to 2020, and is currently director at large on the board of the Canadian Geothermal Energy Association. I'm really curious to hear about what he has to say about the past, present, and the future of news and knowledge and information spreading in the geothermal world. Alexander Richter, how are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
We're really, really happy that you took the time to spend a few minutes with us here on our last virtual seminar chapter. And I'm really curious. We talked a little bit about Think Geoenergy when I introduced you. You founded it already in 2008, which is super early, I would say, from an internet perspective, but from a geothermal world perspective as well. For reference, I think Facebook went public in 2006. So I'd like to hear your thoughts. What was the background when you founded Think Geoenergy? Did you have a specific gap in the industry that you wanted to fill at the time?
Well, When I entered the geothermal sector in 2006, I was working for a bank, and we did a lot of research on geothermal, figuring out where we can invest and basically doing market research. And what I found is that geothermal energy did not get a lot of attention in the media, particularly the energy media or even renewable media that was coming up at the time. It just simply wasn't recognized as one of the renewable energy options. And the news sources that existed in geothermal, they were either too technical or focused on geoscience topics only. And I thought that this was not helpful for the geothermal industry outside of the sector itself. So I thought we needed to promote what geothermal has to offer, what it can do in the energy world, to become essentially a part of the discussion on energy and renewable energy for the future. So I thought kind of geothermal should be represented in the form of project development, technical topics, geoscience topics, but also policy, investment, and so on. So I started collecting news and started basically a blog website, and that was Think Energy, and and it kind of became that accidental news outlet that it is today. So an accidental entrepreneur, but also developer of this news website, and writing news every day and gaining more readers and essentially hitting a nerve in the sector. So that was a very important thing. But really, it was to a gap in the market of information that was not only targeted to us within the geothermal industry, but also outside, helping to promote what geothermal energy has to offer.
Accidental entrepreneur, I love that. So when you talk about the importance of news and information spreading, and that you saw that there didn't really exist that forum within the geothermal world, was there another energy or another sector in the industry that you saw had similar channels, like other renewable energy sectors, that you wanted to sort of mimic or walk in their footsteps?
Well, I think when we started in the renewable energy space professionally, I saw a lot of the wind and solar sector and the coverage on those sectors. And I saw the information about project development. I saw the information on opportunities and the scale of the industry. And that's where I kind of realized that kind of like information is key in the way we present both the opportunity and the understanding of geothermal and the role that it can play. So I looked for data in the geothermal sector of kind of development, existing capacity, etc. And the information was quite scattered, either geographically by country, but there was no kind of global look at geothermal to provide a bit more of a global picture of what geothermal has to offer and basically where it stands today. So that's when I started also collecting information in different databases and try to develop myself from the coverage that we did. So I realized a lot of the information that we shared in the form of articles was also presenting a lot of data. And then we thought, let's connect this. And so it's basically with news, you create data. With data, you create news. So it was a circle that was developing out of that. And with that, we developed kind of a lot of interest in the geothermal sector and helped, I think, really also give geothermal a voice and the companies a voice and the industry essentially a platform to promote itself. And the data basically then also helped to indicate to the outside world that geothermal is a sensitive and a sensible thing to do. And that's where data is an important role. And there are quite a few examples that we looked at the time, and we saw a lot of the research organizations looking at geothermal, but there was no business to be had. So that's why a lot of these companies kind of didn't cover geothermal very well or didn't cover it at all. And we thought kind of there should be an option, even though there's no kind of business for us per se in that kind of research business. So we started developing all this work basically with limited funding and work, and are now building our research business out of it. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I can definitely speak for the whole geothermal industry of the value that Think Geoenergy has provided for so many years now. But if you look back on the past, say, 5 years, and Think Geoenergy aside, are there any other developments that you've seen or that you're proud that has happened? Perhaps people that have been interested by Think Geoenergy's sort of initiative. For example, if we take virtual seminars, we've seen a boom in them as well for the past just years or so. Do you see any specific developments or trends that have occurred in the latest time or presently?
I mean, for geothermal, of course, there have been a lot of changes in geothermal. I mean, we see a lot of emphasis on technologies, helping geothermal overcome, let's say, a scaling issue, for example, of allowing bigger projects to be developed. We see that incredible growth and interest in heat of geothermal, of course, in the context of decarbonization, but I guess also to a large degree to the geopolitical situation. So that these are big changes. And at the same time, from a media perspective, we see over the years a lot of changes, the way media is consumed, the way we present things. But it all comes down to the point that as any industry, we need to talk about what we're doing. Think Geoenergy provides a platform for companies to talk about what they're doing. We'll publish that, but we still don't do enough. And if we publish this to websites, social media, etc. So there's a lot of things going on. And going back to geothermal, clearly we see a big change. We see big companies coming in. We see these companies coming in with a different interest, with experience. And of course, they are applying a lot of the opportunities of what they've done and promoted their industry, for example, in the oil and gas sector. And we see a lot of positive things coming out of this. So video content, etc., has been developed, and that's a fantastic tool to promote. And for anyone in the industry, you need to stay on top of things and follow those trends and work with these trends to promote what you're doing as a company, but also for any media outlet. So that's quite important. So for us, for example, video content is becoming more and more important. And we're quite proud that we're working on some exciting things to launch very soon together with you. So we'll be very, very excited about that. So we'll see. There's a lot of things to come and a lot of things to happen in the geothermal industry. So it's a fantastic industry to be in at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. I can only echo that. So you've spoken a lot about internal communication changes within the industry, but I still feel that whenever I introduce myself as someone that's active within geothermal, first there's an explanation barrier what that is, and then there's another explaining that it actually is a renewable form of energy, causing surprise or confusion even to a lot of people. That's, renewable energy is not a new thing for most people, but geothermal is. Is there any change you could still see when it comes to the geothermal world, how we communicate externally, spreading the word globally? Because Think Geoenergy, I would say, is used a lot within the industry itself, but perhaps a little bit less externally. Perhaps you have more insights within this.
I mean, the interesting part, and I think I mentioned this when I was talking about why I founded Think Geoenergy, was really kind of to give the industry a platform to promote itself. So, and I believe we've managed to position geothermal into the global media world. So just by Google searches, having more content on geothermal has been tremendously helpful and has created a lot of readers outside of the geothermal world, either companies that have been interested in geothermal or kind of just were basically curious, and they see that there is a lively industry with things happening. So I think this was very important to promote. And on your point on geothermal as part of the renewable energy discussion, yes, I mean, this was a big challenge. I mean, if people think about renewable energy, they think about solar, they think about wind, biomass maybe to a degree, and that's about it. So talking about geothermal, ground source heat pumps is then often mentioned, and that's only one aspect. But I think we've come a long way in a sense of now geothermal being seen as one of the renewable energy technologies. We are receiving more interest. We are being taken more seriously, and particularly in the context of heat, kind of that is changing dramatically, particularly in Europe. So in the sense of how we promote geothermal is really kind of what we talk about. We talk about baseload capacity, we talk about the green credentials, etc. But I think what we need to position geothermal in the renewable energy space is talking about geothermal is the renewable energy technology beyond electricity. And this is the crucial aspect here, that we can provide energy beyond electricity. And with that, we have a much broader role to play in the energy transition, and a very attractive role, particularly in the countries that are currently decarbonizing their heating supply. And that's where geothermal will grow the most in the world. So that's very exciting. Do we need to do more? Absolutely. There's still a big mountain to climb, but I think we are on a good path, and I think that's thanks to a lot of companies and media and communication efforts, including yours.
I can only agree with you. There's a big mountain still left to be climbed, but I think we've achieved a lot in the past years. So just a final question then. When it comes to the geothermal world, I think you and your team at ThinkGeo does an amazing work of spreading news and industry awareness and just aligning the industry together. Do you have any encouraging words or something you'd wish the rest of the industry could start with, or perhaps join in your initiative on creating these platforms or spreading the word? Is there something you hope for the remaining of the decade?
Well, I'm very fortunate to have a fantastic team at ThinkG Energy, a young and enthusiastic and passionate team. And I think this is fantastic and gives me so much more hope for what is to come in the industry. And there's so much passion coming in the industry. And we need to kind of channel that passion into opportunities for jobs, for opportunities, so these passionate people can grow in this industry and grow with the industry. And I think this is very important. But I'm very optimistic of things moving in the right direction. And for the remainder of the decade, I mean, we will see so much demand for geothermal on the heating side and development on the technologies. We need a lot of hands on deck, and we need to prepare for that. So for everyone involved, talk about geothermal, talk about what your companies are doing, be outspoken of what you do, what geothermal can offer. And I think we can come a long way, and we are already getting really a good traction and so on. So I'm very, very optimistic.
Thank you, Alex. So am I, and I can just echo with you. We definitely need a lot more people, and we also need to take care of the passionate souls that entered this fantastic industry. And like Christina has talked about earlier, yes, we're closing the chapter of the virtual seminar, but we're also opening the door to something even more exciting in the future. And ThinkGeo Energy might actually have something to do with that, so stay tuned for exciting things in the future. From one Alexander to another, from one friend of the show to another. Our next guest is in charge of Baseload Capital's overall investments and portfolio performance. If you have any questions regarding international project finance or what it takes to found, operate, and run a company, this is the man you should call. He has an MBA from the Norwegian School of Business and an owner-president management education from Harvard Business School. Our next honored guest is, I can't believe my eyes either, but he actually turned 40 last week. So I would like to give a belated happy birthday and a dear welcome to our beloved CEO of Baseload Capital, Alexander Helling.
Thank you so much, Gabriel.
Thank you. Good luck.
All right. I want to take this opportunity to talk about our virtual seminar. And it all actually started when COVID broke out. And we at Baseload, we didn't want to lose tempo in our mission to scale up geothermal. The pandemic was scary, but climate change was even more scary, and all of us felt that we needed to do something. It was at this point our fantastic marketing team came up with our virtual seminar, The Earth Has Power, Let's Switch It On. This is a way to safely bring people, organizations, and policymakers together, not to lose traction, moving things forward when the rest of the world was at a standstill. I personally think our webinars has been a great success. We've had participants from all over the world, and we have discussed policies in countries such as Japan, Taiwan, Iceland, and the US. We have discussed new technologies like geophordis, silica, and lithium extraction, new drilling techniques from quays and GA drilling. We have discussed closed loop systems from Ever, XGS, and Fervo, among many others. We have heard from industry leaders such as Ormat and EDC what's necessary to scale up geothermal projects. We have discussed with companies like Chevron and Baker Hughes how we can utilize the knowledge in the oil and gas industry to grow geothermal. We've had investors such as Bill Gates' Breakthrough Energy Ventures, Vinod Khosla, and Gullspång Invest. And in all the webinars, we've had the support from the fantastic geothermal associations working tirelessly to move the industry forward. And the ones mentioned are only a handful of the players that have helped us and participated and contributed to these webinars and trying to create the planet, to bring the planet back into balance. From all of the discussions we have had, I bring with me 3 key things for the future. We need to focus on projects, on partners, and on people. On projects, we need to tell the world about everything exciting that is happening within the geothermal ecosystem today. Like geothermal heat pumps that are scaling like crazy. We need to talk about the geothermal district heating, where you can combine that with electricity and with mineral mining, for example. We need to understand that by developing multiple projects, we can actually decrease the risk. And we need to make the world aware of what is possible and what we need to show. And we need to show success cases that is already happening. On partners, we have discussed collaboration, knowledge sharing, and that project execution will be the key to drive down cost within the system. This together, at the same time, it will increase the revenue. This will reduce the risk and increase the margins, which will attract more capital and create a positive spiral for even more cost reductions and technology improvements. And lastly, people. We need a lot more people with different skill set, backgrounds, and strong values in order to scale up this industry. And we need them now. All these learnings make me feel very positive, because all of this is already happening as we speak. And I know that we will continue to push for all of these 3. I hope that by holding these events in a challenging time, we have been able to support the industry in moving forward, and I know it for surely has supported us at Baseload. Now when we can put the pandemic behind us, we and the whole industry can look to the future and really get things going. We are in the middle of the geothermal decade, and we need action. We need even more capital in all parts of the ecosystem, more technologies, more developer, better policies, and execution will be the name of the game. I'll quote our chairman from his speech at the World Geothermal Congress in Iceland on what the industry needs. Execution, execution, execution. At Baseload, we will continue in our quest to bring the planet back into balance by leading partnerships to scale up geothermal. But for now, we will have to say goodbye to our webinar. The pandemic is over. The webinar has played an important role during this time, but now we will move on to even better ways of collaborating. So lastly, I would like to give a huge thank you to the full Baseload team, all our fantastic partners and friends for making this possible. And last but not least, to our amazing marketing team for putting all of this together. Without you, none of this would have been possible. And remember, it's up to all of us to show the world that geothermal has a huge role to play in the energy transition. Will it be easy? No. Will it be painless? Probably not. But that is why we are here. It's a challenge we're all willing to accept, and it's up to us to make it come true. So thank you very much.
And it's a wrap.
Fantastic.
It is a wrap. It's been 7 and this was the 8th and you were just the last speaker.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
A bit sad, actually. It's been a lot of fun.
Come on, don't be like that. That's like closing one chapter, opening the next.
Yeah, but you also have to reflect on what that chapter gave us, right? And it was, it's been a lot of fun.
It has been a lot of fun, but I promise you that it's going to be a lot of fun going ahead as well.
Even more.
Even more fun. And I mean, the journey has not only been fun as a recording, there's been so much going on behind the scenes, everybody. It's not just been you and me, right?
Oh, no, for
There's
sure.
been the whole baseload crew, all group, everything from Taiwan, US, Iceland, Japan, everywhere. All of them have contributed. Not all of you are here. Some of you are. So please join us up on stage, guys. Come on. All the people that are here. Yay! There we are. Yeah! It is a wrap. It is a wrap. It is a wrap. Here we have the crew. And you have the champagne, right? Let's pop the champagne.
Oh.
Let's pop the champagne. What a couple of years we've had. Pour the champagne, Gabriella. Go for it. What has been most exciting these years? And Emily, you were actually the one who created the logo, the switch. Amazing. So high five on that one. Here we go. Give me that glass of champagne. I want that. And Pernilla, from the start, you've been practicing. You're now a superstar here on stage.
Wow, that was a new word.
Yeah, but you are. We've created new superstars along the way, and there are superstars coming. Charlotte, our CFO, who's also going to be visible in the future. So, Alex, I told you, it is going to be a future we can look forward to.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We have to beat this, so the next big thing will come right around the corner.
We will beat this. Cheers for that.
Cool.
And while you are cheering, I'm going to make sure to do a final and last outro. Ladies and gentlemen, what an extraordinary journey it has been. Together we have dwelled into the depths of geothermal energy, unlocking its secret and embracing the sprint of innovation. As we wrap up this virtual seminar, my heartfelt gratitude goes out to each and every one of you, inspiring speakers, engaged participants, and the entire community in the spirit of trust, resilience, and the courage to think beyond boundaries. Let's carry the inspiration gained today into our respective endeavors. This may be the conclusion of this chapter, but it marks the beginning of countless of possibilities. Thank you for being active contributors to this momentous occasions. So, until our paths cross again, whether virtually or in person, remember the journey to a greener and more sustainable future continues. Goodbye for now, and take care.